podcast. I have a really cool guest with us today, kind of OG, an engineer that started out at the record plant here in Los Angeles, which I have a kind of a connection to as well. But Rick, the reason I started doing this, Rick Smith is his name. The reason that I started doing this is I'm going to retire soon, and I don't have a lot of pictures or photo albums. We have a mutual friend, Paula Salvatore. I think you know Paula.
Paula.
And she has lots of pictures. And I thought, man, I have this whole career, and I'm going to retire, and I don't have really anything for posterity. So I wanted to talk to the people that I loved and kind of shine a light on there's no one way to get here in your job that you love. Uh, and so, yeah, that's kind of the purpose of it. And I really only ask one question, and it goes from there, which is where are you born?
Well, I was born in Angola, Indiana, but before I was even a year old, Mom went out to Southern California to be with Dad. Because when he got out of Trident College in Indiana, he immediately got hired in the aero
I was going to ask, what did your mom and dad do?
aerodynamics
So I was going to ask what your
industry.
mom and dad do. So that's your dad was.
Dad was an electrical engineer, and he's real smart. And he worked for Hughes Aircraft. He worked at Edwards Air Force Base, and we lived in various parts of Los Angeles and Orange County.
Oh, cool, cool, cool. And what did your mom do?
Mom was just a homemaker.
Yeah.
She was just a mom for most of the part, most of the time.
Yeah.
Later on, when we moved to Charleston, South Carolina, she loved her. What was that job? Where you would welcome wagon or welcome
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh,
Kind of like a Chamber of Commerce thing where you welcome businesses and people
and
into the
people.
community.
Well, oh God,
Welcome wagon hostess.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
She did that, and she liked that job the best.
Oh, that sounds a very cool job. Now, do you have siblings?
Yeah, Steve Smith, he's very successful engineer, and he's up in Seattle now. He heads an AV department for this Christian university.
Oh, cool, cool.
And then David's like an artist and collects. He's an
Oh,
audiophile.
gotcha, gotcha. Um, did one of the things I talk about is kind of like the early influences and stuff like that. So, where did you go to elementary school?
Uh, we had moved, well, in Southern California, but in 1962, the family moved to Charleston, South Carolina, because Dad got a job with Lockheed as a field engineer, and there was a big naval base in Charleston. And Mom, being a Southern belle, she lived born and lived up in North Carolina. She went to Ashley Hall, young girls finishing school
Well, yeah,
in
boarding school. Yeah,
Charleston.
boarding school. I'm
So she wanted to go to Charleston, and that's where I went and was really influenced by black culture
yeah.
and music. I heard R&B and soul music for the first time.
Did you now you went to public school? Did you have music programs in your school?
No,
No?
not high school either. No,
Oh, interesting. I did.
no.
Um, now this is a pivotal one I asked. What's the first song or what's a song that you remember from your childhood?
Oh, well, the song that made a really impression on me was Papa's Got a Brand New Bag
Nice.
by James Brown. And that was the first concert that I ever went to
Really?
at the old county hall
James
up
Brown.
on King Street.
Oh, that's
Yeah, I
killer.
was
I
one of
love
about
James Brown.
18 white people in the
I love,
audience.
dude, I love James Brown. Um, so you play an instrument, you play guitar.
Right, I started playing guitar in Charleston because I wanted to, be in a
Were your
band. And
parents supportive of
they
that?
were very supportive. Steve and I had a little band in high school, and we played all these like Stax Volt, Otis Redding songs, and Marvin Gaye, and uh, just all this stuff. And Dad would take us around. We traveled to different towns in
Very
Charleston.
cool.
We
Very
used
cool.
to go down to Paris Island.
I've talked to a lot of people, and it's kind of one way or the other. Like you either succeed because your family was supportive,
Right, or they
or
shut
they
you
don't, or they
down.
shut you down,
They
and you
shut
would
you down.
succeed in spite of that. So it's kind of nice to hear that your parents were
Yeah,
supportive.
we had kids in our band where the parents were like, "You played at Folly Beach last night. It's, you know, it's a cesspool
Oh,
of
okay,
crap."
okay. Uh, people that have listened to this podcast or seen this podcast, they know that I also grew up in Charleston, South Carolina, which we'll go into more detail about that later. I know it's a
Whoa,
fun fact, fun coincidence, right?
my good.
I met a woman
I'm
recently who also
incredulous.
went to the College of Charleston. It was just random, but
Okay.
anyway, one of the things I think that's interesting, and I know about the people that I talk to, so but the people who are listening and watching, they don't.
Right.
So one of the things we you play guitar, and your parents bought you a guitar. What was the first guitar your parents bought you?
A 1965 Fender Jazzmaster, or it might have been a '64 Fender Jazzmaster, because I really liked the Beach Boys. Even though I was in the South, I loved the Beach Boys, and I love those white Fender guitars. They
Yeah,
had
yeah.
their big fins. They were
We're
like
sitting in
the cars
6000
back then.
Sunset where the Beach Boys did a lot of Pet Sounds. So I'm
Yeah,
really
I had
lucky. I
no
get to be.
idea of that.
Yeah, you didn't then, but you do now.
No. Yeah, I mean, what's ironic is that Steve and I and my wife, our first little place in Hollywood was in the hood, down
On
on
Gordon,
Gordon
right?
Avenue. I live
Crazy.
right down the street
Oh, that's
from
crazy.
the
Um,
studio.
oh, that's so funny. Did now? So you got a guitar. You're playing gigs with your brother. You're playing around Charleston and stuff like that. Now, you get out of high school. Did you go to college or study anything there? Or?
I got out of high school to become a hippie.
Oh,
And
okay.
I opened up Charleston's first hippie nightclub down in Folly Beach called the Alice Underground.
Very
And
cool.
we had at that time, we had transferred over to play psychedelic music. We played the Doors and Vanilla
Hendrix.
Fudge and Hendrix and the Young Rascals and stuff. And I talked to old man to McKevlin, who had a surf shop, but he had a big bowling alley that was just a room, and they gutted the lanes, but there was this big space. I said, let me have a nightclub back there for kids, and you can sell beer up front, and then the kids can just bring it into the club, and my band will play, and I'll just do this for no rent. And he said, okay.
So kind of like a brown bag thing. I love that.
Yeah, yeah.
I
And you
love
had to
that.
be 18 to get in, and,
Right.
you know.
And one thing people may not realize, we're of a certain age, both Rick and I, where you could drink when you were 18. You could drink beer and wine at 18. You couldn't drink hard liquor. But when they changed it to 21, we were already all over 21, so it didn't matter. But you could drink in South Carolina at that time. And also at that time, and for a long time, they only served alcohol in mini bottles.
Like on an
And I
airplane.
know
Yeah,
this
yeah, yeah.
because I was a bartender in downtown
I
Charleston,
kind of
and I had to
liked it,
bartend. Well,
actually.
you knew what you were getting. You
Yeah,
was a
yeah.
strong shot. The
Yeah,
seal wasn't
what was
broken.
it? Just like
2 ounces.
two? Yeah.
Yeah, but so you got this nightclub, and
Oh,
what was it?
wait a minute. This is the South. You could even drink and drive. You just couldn't be drunk. That's where the term, I have my traveler,
Yeah, my traveler. Yeah, yeah.
the flask.
Well, you can. I haven't ridden in one yet, but they have those things, and you've seen them here in Hollywood. They're called Waymos. They're
Oh my
driverless cars.
God.
You can drink in a Waymo.
Oh my
You
God.
because you have to sit in the back seat. You're not driving.
Right, but I thought an open container was an open
I don't
container.
know, maybe, but
Well,
everyone's been
yeah.
telling me the excitement of the Waymo. I don't want to misrepresent,
Waymo, yeah.
but the excitement of the Waymo is you can have a roadie sody or a traveler, as we like to call a drink.
A roadie.
In the
set.
last podcast, I was talking to this guy, and he was talking about a bar called the Drunken Monkey. I want to open a bar just to call it the Drunken Monkey because I love the name of that. I think you should have a band that plays at the Drunken Monkey.
No,
Anyway,
no.
so you had the club,
Yeah.
Alice Underground. Now, what was the name of your band? What were the name of the various bands that you had?
First, it was the Shoresmen.
Okay,
In high
from the
school.
shore.
We played all R&B and soul music, and then we got a guitar player from Fayetteville, and he was a long hair already. This is 1967 and 68, and he wanted to do more like rock stuff, and then we eventually did, psychedelic stuff, and he was all into that. Um,
And what was the name of that band?
that name, the High Price Spread.
Oh, I love that.
And then
It's the
later
greatest
on,
name.
when I got my friend Peter Codisbody, who you might even know from Charleston, we called it Geechee.
Oh,
And
really?
then Chariot. And we
don't.
moved up, the family
Chariot,
moved up to Virginia Beach. And we
Chariot
put
I've
it,
heard of, but
Yeah.
Geechee, I don't know if
yeah,
I.
yeah. Right, when I brought the Allman Brothers, my
That
back.
was Chariot, though, no?
No, Paul Childs had a poster. You don't know Paul, but this guy had a poster and he showed it to me, and it was Geechee.
Oh, wow, that's funny. So you're playing and gigging around regionally in the South and stuff like that. Uh, how did you end up back in L.A.?
Steve and I wanted to be rock stars. There wasn't that much happening. And at the time, we had a really good band. But we were just playing gigs, and I had just gotten married. We'd come back from Virginia Beach. And I said, man, let's go out to L.A. and try to get in the industry. If we can't be rock stars, we'll get in on the production end of it. Because I was always interested in that. I'd always read album covers. Who is the producer?
Isn't it funny how you look at some of your favorite albums and you'll see like a pattern where you gravitate toward the same producer or the same engineer? Because for
Yeah,
me
yeah,
it would
yeah.
be like Andy Johns did Sticky Fingers, right? But I think people don't have that now. They don't have liner notes. They don't have album credits like we did growing up, where you pull it out
Yeah,
and
big
look
album,
and
yeah.
see the person's name. I'll never forget. And I got this album somewhere. It's a record called Rituals by Frank Sinatra, and it was recorded here in this building. And the album cover is him in the loading bay. It's not an attractive photo. He's sitting on a box, but the liner notes were so hysterical. It's about him walking in and writing some woman's phone number on his
Oh,
leg.
wow.
But the liner notes, these guys that wrote these liner notes, the guy's name was Hal something, and he did a lot of these liner notes, and they made them like humorous
Oh, cool.
but all the
Like
credits.
magazine article.
Yeah, but all the
Yeah,
credit to the musicians
yeah,
and the
yeah, yeah,
engineer and stuff
yeah.
like that. But that was such a cool thing, and it's funny that you say that about the producer, because you hear it, and I think you kind of like, without even realizing it, you're like, I love this sound, or I love this.
Yeah, there were certain guys that I liked and stuff, and we came out here in L.A. and it was kind of rough. Hollywood was kind of rough back then.
It's rough now.
Seedy. Yeah, but it was different. Anyway, it was more ghetto. And there were no kids, and I'm like, wow, this is weird. But after being here, I worked at this place, Harry Soich's, and I antique picture frames, and it was right there on La Cienega, and there was this alley adjacent to it. And one day I walked up the alley and I saw this big acoustic bass case that was all psychedelic painting with neon and stuff. And I said, what is this?
Like a stand-up bass?
Yeah, and in the alley, and I walked in it, and it had a big gate, and there was a truck inside. I thought, oh, this must be a movie studio or something. And then I walked around the front, the record plant.
Oh, dude, the cool psychedelic lettering.
About a couple weeks after that, this guy, this friend of Steve's, said, oh, I know you're looking for a job at a recording studio. I was at the Erewhon Health Food Store, and on their bulletin board they had a card for janitor needed at a recording studio. I said, well, what's the address? He says, I don't know. He took me to it and showed it to me. It was 8456 West 3rd, and I'm like, oh my God, that's the record plant. And me and this guy, his name was Rollo, we went for our interview.
Rollo?
Yeah, I remember going there in the morning and Joe
Is this like Rollo Tomasi? Is this
yeah,
a joke?
yeah. Rollo Tomasi.
Rollo Tomasi.
Joe Walsh comes walking out of the front door, and I'm like, oh, wow, this is it, This will be my big
The
chance.
biggest hands on earth, by the way, Joe Walsh.
For a white guy. Anyway, I got hired. Chris Stone hired us, and he says, now, you got to promise me that you'll never want to be assistant engineers. I didn't even know what that was. I said, sure. I'll just be
Wait
a
a minute.
janitor
He just
from
wanted
now till I retire.
he just wanted you to be like a runner.
A janitor.
Yeah, they didn't even call them runners. They called
They-
them janitors.
No, gophers.
Yeah, yeah.
Mark Eshelbaum had been hired 4 days ahead of me. He was the runner, the gopher. They didn't even call him runner.
Okay, so you graduated from janitor to gopher.
No, I graduated from janitor to assistant
Right.
engineer.
But there a hierarchy? Was there a pecking order?
Later on, Bob Margouleff became chief engineer.
Chief assistant or whatever?
No, chief engineer before they hired Lee DiCarlo. And I'm going to get to a very interesting story about that because it changed my whole outlook as a recording engineer.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, yeah. This was the record plant, Eagles. They had a certain kind of sound. A lot of soft rock was recorded there. America would always record there and stuff. Anyway, what was I talking
About when you're being a janitor.
no. Bob Margouleff started a setup program. And each room would be set up with all the gear they wanted beforehand. When I was in a janitor stuff, the assistants would like, oh, you need this? Oh, there's one in Studio B. And you'd walk in, even while session was going on, and say, hey, are you guys using it? Go, no, take it. And they would take
That's a
it.
bit of
and the stuff wasn't loaded into,
It wasn't in racks.
Not in racks. And so I did that. So, but see, I didn't even do that. I didn't go to setup. I was already an assistant engineer. I went from janitor to assistant engineer.
How did you get that first assistant gig? Like, was somebody sick?
I sat in with a lot of the assistants and helped them. I janitor in the morning, go home, take a nap, then come back in the afternoon and sit in the evening.
Who were some of the people that you worked with there that were your peers at the record plant at that time?
Other assistants and stuff. Worked with Phil Shear.
Okay.
He was Quincy Jones's engineer, and I would sit in on the Bill Withers with Quincy Jones, and I would get them if they needed something. I'd do it. And I remember one night I helped Michael Bronstein, where there's a playback thing for Frank Zappa.
Oh wow!
And his wife was there, and Captain Beefheart was there, and it happened to be his birthday. And I got a call from the
Frank
office.
Zappa's
You got to go home. Your apartment's on fire.
Oh, Jesus.
And Frank thought that was hilarious. You're leaving? I said, yeah, my apartment's on fire.
Oh, Jesus.
They cracked it. And later on, I became Frank's exclusive engineer before he finally built his own studio up there on Woodrow Wilson.
Yeah, right. Who were some of the other people that were on staff at the record plant
Lee
at the time?
Kiefer became my buddy because he was like Mr. California. He was in the hot rods. He was into producing, and he was a surfer from San Diego. And he knew all these people. He was Mama Cass's gigolo boyfriend.
Oh, interesting.
And Mama and the Pop. There's even pictures of him sitting next to her while they're listening to Hendrix and stuff. He and I became best friends. And, but the first album where I really got my chance, I was still, about 6 months into me being a janitor, Dee Willoughby came in and says,
Dee Willoughby was the manager?
She was the traffic girl.
Oh.
Kellgren's going to have a jam, for one of the Beatles.
Gary Kellgren was one of the owners.
The owner of Record Plant. I said, all right. She says, do you want to assist on? I can't get anybody else. I said, sure. She said, this is your big chance. So it was Bill Wyman in the control room with Gary Kellgren, who I'd never worked with.
Bill Wyman was a bass player for the Rolling Stones.
Yeah. And heard all the, Gary Kellgren was like, Hughes, mad scientist of recording. But I did the whole session, and it was like, Joe Walsh, Peter Cooch, Nigel Olsson, Al Cooper. It was crazy.
Crazy cool.
And then David Bowie and Ron Wood.
What?
Crashed it later on.
Crashed this jam?
There were drugs.
No drugs.
Oh. Here, God, chop this up.
Part of the job was you
Hit
had
the
to chop
take
up
up
the
reel and,
cocaine.
explode into the little dust storm. Anyway, but my first big official album as an assistant, this was very wild. KLOS rented out, gave out tickets to people who called in, and we did 2 nights of Tom Waits in Studio C with chairs and tables, waitresses, a
Oh, that
bar,
became
a
Nighthawks at
stripper, Tom's
a
band.
stripper.
Yeah, and we recorded it live, and I was I got to work with Bones Howe.
Oh, yeah, he's an alum of this building.
Oh yeah, very famous, and I was the only assistant. And this was like a live recording.
So there was a lot going
Yeah,
on.
well, I'm running the 4 track.
Oh, wow.
When the 24 track
And
was
this
getting
was
ready to run
Nighthawks
out.
at the diner.
And we were traveling at 30 IPS, so I always had to have the 2 track or the 4 track running. And excellent assistant engineering by Rick Smith.
Now, and that became Nighthawks at the diner. That
Right,
wasn't
and then later on, got credit along with Steve on songs in the Key of Life.
Stevie Wonder.
So
What
I
a
got
great
to work
record.
with a lot. It's not like today. I think the seconds and engineers of today get kind of typecast. I mean, you back me up on this. Certain assistants you put with certain projects because they work in that genre of music. Back then, I worked from everybody from Joe Walsh to the Delphonics.
Now, here is different. Here is more like what you did. Here, as a manager here, one of my mottos, requirements, or whatever, if you're going to work here, you're going to do string dates, you're going to do rock dates, you're going to do hip hop, you're going to do the thing where it becomes not typecast, but the thing where it becomes more of who you. It's a psychology of who you put with who. Like me as the manager, who if I know the producer and I know his likes and dislikes, I'll realize that this person or this assistant's personality may not jive. It's not about a knowledge.
So the producer has a lot. His personality has a lot to do with
who I put with him.
Right.
Yeah, or the first engineer. If I know.
Do you have to find first engineers sometimes?
Something, yeah. No, I hire first a lot of people, and usually I hire alum because they know the rooms.
Room.
Yeah, but I was talking to Paula, our friend Paula, about this. One of the big things of my job, and my assistant Keith and I talk about this, is knowing who will work with who and who won't fit personality-wise. And you kind of, unfortunately, learn a little bit about that by trial and fire, where you fuck up and you put somebody with somebody and it doesn't jive. And we often say one of the most important things, and Nate, the videographer, is also an engineer, he could agree with this, one of the most important things, being technically astute, important. Understanding equipment, important. The most important is vibe.
Your social skills,
The ability
and getting
to
along
hang.
with people.
Reading the room.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Knowing when to be quiet. Knowing, first of all, and a couple people I've talked to, lots of people I've talked to, you have no opinion when you're an assistant engineer or a runner because no, you don't.
Really like that at the record plant.
I mean, you have an opinion if they trust you and they already know you, then they ask your opinion. It's different. But if you have never worked together before and you're strangers, then you don't pipe up as an assistant and say, "Hey, that vocal's flat."
No. But like at a record plant, because you were already working at this
at the record plant,
the cathedral of rock.
Yeah.
People would ask you for your opinion.
True, and you knew the room, so they would say, what I think, when people call me to book time now, I immediately will gravitate towards an engineer, even if I've never met him. If he says to me, well, I'll let the assistant set up the drums where you normally set them up. Like if he has the intelligence to trust someone who knows the room, then I think he's a good engineer because he relinquishes a little bit of his hubris to go, I'm going to go with the kid who with somebody who already knows this room if I don't know this room. Yeah. So, and that's a comment. Another thing, and I don't know what you think about this, but another thing, and I was learning to be an assistant for a minute, so I have a fundamental knowledge of recording, but I'm not an engineer. I've been a manager for such a long time. But another thing that me personally, I notice, judge me if you will, whoever's listening or watching
Out
this,
with it. Out.
but if you come into a room like Studio One here or Studio Two here, and you're doing a string date, if you over mic, if it's a 12-piece string section and you put 30 mics on it, or you close mic everything, to me it defeats the entire purpose of what the room is made for.
Rookie.
You don't get the room
Yeah,
sound.
yeah.
You don't. It's like if you're gonna if you're gonna isolate everything and you're gonna just you're missing half the point of what these spaces are for. You're not going to get the room sound.
Well, not now
Mic
that.
placement is super important.
Well, that's interesting
No
because at
question.
the record plant, it was almost at least Studio A and Studio B. They were designed for close miking, isolated. The walls had active traps in them and
Now
stuff.
that's interesting.
But Studio C was different. And I'd worked as an assistant for all types of these clients, but a lot of them were reoccurring clients
Yeah,
that came because
loyal.
Kellgren
Your loyal
owned it, or
customers.
it was the record plant. Zappa was one of them. But Studio C was big and open.
Talking
All
about
the engineers, they just do
it
Pro Tools.
well, it sounds like we're contradicting ourselves. Mic placement is very important.
Yeah.
And close miking is necessary.
Yeah.
But if you're doing a string section in particular, it's weird to me to see a quartet have 30 mics on.
Yeah. Well, I've been 2 years into working at the record plant, and we get this project with these New York guys, two Italians that work at Royce Acala's record plant in New York. And they
Is it
came
Ricky
in,
DeLana?
They
Is it Ricky DeLana?
no, all those guys came afterwards.
Okay.
But anyway, it's Lee DiCarlo, engineer, and Eddie Leonetti. And Lee is like like Royce Acala. He'll throw a Fairchild out in the street if it's not working correctly. He's a crazy New York guy. And we did this
Hothead.
album, Angel. No gobos, not a lot of close miking, but
But
a lot
everyone
of
playing
room
live
mics.
together.
And he got rid of all the 3M machines. Later on, he told me, it's a little technical, but he says, I don't like the ISO loop 24 tracks because the tape comes off the head at a curve, and that causes a fringe effect.
On the
and you
on the
lose
yeah
a
on
lot
the
of your
end.
bass.
Interesting.
And all of a sudden, we got all these Ampex machines from Ed Lever, Canyon Recording, and all of a sudden, I'm
Ampex
here.
multi-tracks like ATR one ATR.
Yeah, we got an ATR, a brand new
124?
ATR 2-track. I'd never
Oh,
seen it
2-track.
before.
Oh, 102.
And then an MM 1200.
Oh.
Right, the ones before those big Ampex 124s that
Right,
you
yeah,
used to
that I
have
ha-
here.
yeah.
Which, by the way,
They're amazing.
great machines.
Amazing.
Anyway, and I heard low end like I'd never heard it before, and the drums are through a PA out in the room, and
That's crazy.
everybody's playing on 10.
That's loud as fuck.
Oh, it was so loud.
Somebody soloed a kick drum in Studio 2 one time. It was Michael Beinhorn. I love you, Michael. But Don was and Pat Leonard were working, and
I love
they wanted
Pat
me to
and
say
Don.
something. They wanted me to say something to him because he was soloing a kick drum to a PA, and it was just bumping. And these rooms, these were built in the 60s.
Wait, they're in other studios
Yeah,
in the league. Oh,
yeah. And so, and this is Michael Beinhorn. And so Pat Leonard and Don Was go down the hallway, and they're like, dude, this is Studio 2 at 6,000. You don't need to solo the kick drum through a PA that loud. You can take it down. And Nate Kunkel was the engineer on that. God bless him. But yeah, it all worked out. And I love you, Michael Beinhorn. You're a genius.
I
But
love
yeah,
Pat and Don.
all great. All great people. All of y'all are great people.
Later on, when I worked at Design Effects, Gemma Corfield.
What was Design Effects?
Design Effects was, I came back to L.A. after going to Hawaii and stuff, which is why I left the record plant. But I got a deal I couldn't refuse to build a studio and stuff in Honolulu. And I did that because I was getting tired of being an assistant. I wanted to sit in the hot seat. But in '85, I came back. My mom was having problems and stuff. I came back here and got a job with Gary Ladinsky.
Record plant
started
alum.
this rental company.
Another record plant alum.
Yeah, he's a record plant alumni. I worked with him on a lot of records. He was Tom Werman's engineer for all that Motley
Dude, that's
Crue.
that's a name. Tom Werman was the metal god, like the pop metal
Yeah,
god.
but he was
He
basic.
runs a B&B
He was
outside of
basically
Boston
an
now.
A&R
I
guy
know.
who just said, "Well, the record companies, no, you got to make sure they don't spend too
I'm gonna
money,
grab my
much money.
water.
You be
Yeah.
the
Yeah, you're a
producer."
producer. Yeah,
Yeah,
producer.
he didn't know anything.
Well, producer, and I want to tell people watching, a producer has had many different
Yeah,
connotations,
yeah.
but when I was coming up and when you were coming up, they helped control the budget. And people like Bob Rock that I work with, they still do that. But now people think of producers as people who make beats or who co-write a song,
Oh,
and that's true too. But the producer was the go-between between the record company and the artist.
best example, John Boylan. We love him.
Amazing.
Columbia staff producer. He'd go to Columbia Records in the morning, and he'd have a session at 12 noon at the record plant.
Yeah.
And he'd only work 6 hours.
He did that Boston album that is just such
Oh,
a
he told me, he
phenomenal.
says, "Rick, I got to go to this home studio in Boston that got flooded out, but this group is so good that the suits are all on my ass to produce this
Great.
record." And
You know,
then,
John's still around. I'll
oh, I
probably
know,
see him at NAMM actually. Beautiful head of white hair, that guy.
dude, he's always had white hair.
Nicest guy.
He's nice.
You know, like John Sturrock has white hair, but John Boylan, the engineer. But they all look like, and Jim Scott, you have the best white hair ever. But Jim's got gorgeous, gorgeous white
Jim
hair.
worked at record plant.
Yeah. He was a
Truck guy.
I talked to him on this show, and I worked with him a lot when this was cello. And I love Jim. He's a friend of long standing. He was an early interview, actually pre-video, where he had told me the story. I knew that he was kind of like the desk guy for a minute. I
Yeah,
know
not
Klink
long.
was like a desk guy,
Yeah, not long.
right? But he told the story, and I suck that I can't remember this. But he told the story that he was working the night desk, got a call from someone who needed a truck like the next day, and he went to Rose or whoever was the manager, and he ended up on the session, ended up on the truck.
Yeah.
But he was already 30 and already had close to late 20s, already had a degree in geology. He was a working geologist, and he had left and gone to live in Alaska
I didn't know
to
that.
sort of like find himself or figure out what he wanted to do. And he loved music, and he came back and he got that gig at the record plant.
We love you, Jim.
Oh, Jim's the best. The best.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you're talking about, so you went to Hawaii. What was the studio that you built there?
It's called Broad Recording Studio, and it was very interesting.
Is it still there?
No.
Oh.
I got to work with, local Hawaiian entertainers, which there was a whole
Or
group
there
of,
was Don Ho. We
Vegas-
know Don
yeah,
Ho.
Vegas types, but they lived in Waikiki, and they were local. They had Hawaiian blood in them, but they were like show guys.
Like Jimmy Borges.
Right.
Am I saying his name right?
You said it exactly right.
Yeah.
And,
Everybody knows Don
Al
Ho.
Harrington.
Oh, Al Harrington.
David Jensen, the Hawaiian giant.
I don't know who that
It's just all this crazy stuff.
Israel came later, the big kid.
Yeah. No, that's when the whole Renaissance thing. When I went there was no Renaissance. It was like,
Vegas.
yeah, it's like a high school song would be Tiny Bubbles.
That's so funny.
It was very,
what a cool
very
time.
shot. Very,
Yeah. Cheesy.
So what's your stick?
Yeah. So Hawaii, what a cool time. Always a good time to go to Hawaii, but what a cool time to go to
But
Hawaii.
I came back, managed this company for Gary Killian. We got
Gary Ladinsky.
Gary Ladinsky. We got tons of business because people remember me and Gary from the record plant.
Yeah.
So there's all these guys like Ed Cherney, Jim Scott, David Bianco, all these record plant assistants that became great engineers on SSLs.
And I know your brother Steve, he opened a studio, and because he knew a lot of those guys, they ended up being his clients.
Yeah, that was wild.
Yeah, that's
Mike Klink with Guns N' Roses.
Now I tell my staff here, like the assistants, I tell them like, look, the people you're working with now, if you're lucky, you're going to know them for your whole career.
Yeah.
You're going to refer gigs to each other, or you're going to give a gig to each
And
other.
they remember you.
Yeah, and you know each other, and you know what you experienced, and you also I mention this often. There's a trust that occurs between an artist and an engineer and a producer, an assistant and a first engineer, and co-assistants, people that are staffed together.
Well, yeah,
There's a whole
because the
trust.
studio is such an intimate
Yes.
environment. Artists, they get off the road, they get
Very
away from the
vulnerable.
suits and the air, and they come here.
Sanctuary.
It's their sound
Yeah,
sanctuary.
I try to run it as such. I try to get out of the way and just give them what they need to create and not, and as gregarious as I am, highly aware that I'm not part of the
Yeah,
process. You know what I mean? And an assistant, a good assistant, that hanging back that we were talking
yeah, oh
about,
yeah.
that
And you
whole
got to
thing.
be real because most of those artists and stuff, they want you to be real. Very few are the whole like Phil Spector
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah,
guy.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
You mostly don't get that.
Well,
You
and
get
you're in a room with people 12, 14 hours a day,
yeah,
so you become,
yeah,
and in that moment of time when they're working, you develop a friendship and a
yeah.
trust
I,
that
I
happens.
became good friends with Frank Zappa. He didn't drive. So, it'd be me and Frank going up to Woodrow Wilson in my little 67 Volkswagen.
This is so cool. I mean, I've talked to a lot of people. Jim is one of the few with record plant experience. I haven't talked to Mike yet. Mike, I love you, but you're going to be on the show. Uh, but yeah,
Clink.
it's such an interesting part of LA. I mean, we're at 6,000 Sunset, certainly a big fixture in LA recording history. Capitol Records,
Yeah,
many fine studios,
yeah,
Westlake, some that are no longer with us, but some incredible studios, The Village, a lot of great studios. But the record plant was
yeah,
uniquely
yeah.
star studded and rock. And when I came here to cello in '98, it was very interesting. I had Jim Scott was in studio too, and it felt to me like what people would talk about the record plant
Yeah,
years,
yeah.
because I'd have an 18-month booking with Tom Petty, or I'd
Oh,
have like the
yeah.
Stones. I mean, it was the
Wow.
top of rock and roll. But on any given day, I'd come in and it's Ringo Starr, it's the Stones, it's Tom Petty,
What? Now, I
it's
heard a story, a rumor, that you're in it. Tell them about the whole thing with Mel Gibson that time.
I don't know the Mel Gibson story.
Didn't you have to do a voiceover or something?
I don't know what that story is with Mel Gibson. I don't know what that is. I don't know that story.
Oh,
You sure it was Mel Gibson?
some star come in and he didn't want to be around any other assistants, and you had to do a voiceover with him and this movie producer and stuff.
That I don't know. Well, you have to refresh my memory. I did a vocal on a rap song at Soundcastle called Los Angeles Times, which he loves, Nate loves,
What exhibit?
with Exhibit, yeah, from the Alcoholics. That's kind of a Jake, who works the front desk, is obsessed that I did this vocal, and I say, "Welcome to LA." Yeah, yeah, yeah. People who are into that gangster rap know that track, but I mean that's possible. The Mel Gibson thing, it doesn't ring a bell. My favorite story happened here. There are many stories about Western recorders, and Skip Saylor did the show, and he was an assistant here, and he told me some amazing stories. But one story that was, and I later got to meet Andy Johns and become friends with him, and I loved him
I was
so
good
much.
friends with
Rest in
Andy.
peace. What a lovely guy. But there was a story about Andy Johns and I think Eddie Money were drunk, and they were outside the hallway of Studio 3, and they were peeing into Heineken bottles and missing and
Yeah,
peeing all over
yeah,
the ground.
yeah.
And around the corner came a 16-piece children's Christian choir while they were like peeing,
Yeah.
into these bottles.
Well,
Anyway, crazy stories.
back in the day, Western and then United Western, they were kind of run down. They're kind of shabby. They had good equipment and stuff. I mean, I actually did a string date in 1978 in Studio One.
Oh,
And they
really?
had a Neve console, and it wasn't that big, huge thing that you got now, but it was 1073
Nice. So probably
equalizers
an
and
8068 or something
yeah,
like Alan Sides. Because Alan Sides and Bill Putnam, they were gear guys.
it had like a 40 input. I had
Because
string.
at United, They had a Dowcon in Studio B
God, not
until
that
less than 3 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. They put an Eve in, but that was a Bill Putnam custom
Yeah, yeah.
design console, but cool sounding,
Yeah.
but hard to work on.
Well, you probably had the
Cumbersome.
noise floor over the years, the capacitors, and
You're
it
right.
starts creeping up.
But
Man.
those guys, I was talking about this to someone else. Those guys, like a Tom Dowd and a Bill Putnam, they were flying by the seat of their, and Jeff Emmerich, they were flying by the seat of their pants because they were creating stuff from broadcast. So the
Right,
original
yeah.
gear they had.
Didn't have the headroom.
Well, it's funny.
and
Somebody's here
stuff.
today, and I think I'm going to miss him. I'm not going to get to say hi to him. But in Studio 3 today is a guy, you'd love this guy. He's a British guy. His name's Adam Mosley.
Is somebody working in the street now?
Yeah, he's doing
My
interviews.
favorite room.
But he worked at Trident in London, and the studio and the console that's in that room he helped build.
Oh,
I think he's done.
let's cut this short and go talk to you.
Well, we will. He did an episode, and you can listen to the episode,
God,
and he talks
yeah,
all
I wanna
about it.
talk-
So you're in Hawaii. You built this studio. You come back here. You have design effects. You carry.
Well, before that, when he got fired at the record plant, became Gary Kilgren's
Driver.
valet.
Yes, driving. Well, an interesting thing about our brother David, and you talking about Frank Sinatra, was that he had all these pictures of Frank from those time frame in 1975 and 76 at the record plant. And I got approached by this girl named Holland Greco,
Oh, I heard about
who
this.
does
No,
all,
not Frank Sinatra, Zappa.
I mean, Frank Zappa. Sorry, Sinatra, Zappa. Sorry. And I got approached by Holland Greco, who's a friend, and I met Ahmet, and they ended up using our brother David's photograph on the box set.
I babysat Ahmet one night.
He's the sweetest kid.
Yeah, he was just a little. He was.
He's a nice guy, actually. Very nice guy. But yeah, this is my brother. He's one of the reasons I ended up in this crazy fucking business. He's a badass musician. He's a great engineer. Don't listen to him. It doesn't matter that he doesn't know SSL. He got ears. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't matter. He's got great ears. He's got great ears. And yeah. So
Well, I worked with Ron Nevison.
yeah, so we love Ron, and then
kinda
Clink,
skipped
and
that.
then Clink worked.
Clink took over for
Clink
me.
took over because Ricky was difficult.
No, Ron was.
Ron was difficult.
Was being difficult, and I yeah.
Did
I
you,
had
did you
enough.
posture?
Yeah, well, yeah, I had to. I said, "Don't make me teach you how to behave." And
Yeah.
Rose says, "Oh, Rick."
Yeah, you can't talk to the producer like that.
But then I went up and worked with Eddie Kramer, who
Who
was
I
way
love.
more difficult,
Who-
but
but-
really good on that Angel album.
But who's become, and I don't think Eddie has ever grokked that you're my brother.
No. One time at the
I don't think he knows you're my
No,
brother because
you're right.
Eddie's my friend now. Eddie Kramer
Good
is my
Lord,
really
you
good
can
friend.
get along with anybody. No,
Well-
I read he's cool.
No, he's a great fucking engineer.
Really?
Now,
No, and he's a good producer. Too.
he's a great producer.
Yeah.
He just came in and he's a great photographer too. No shit. His whole thing is all those pictures of Hendrix. Oh, he has books
Oh, bad.
about from the times at
bet.
Electric Lady, but yeah, I don't think Eddie knows that you're my brother. So Eddie, when I see you next, I'm going to give you a call tomorrow, my dear friend, and I'm going to remind you that Rick's my brother.
I think there's a couple people. Has Jack Douglas ever worked here?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of people that don't know you're my brother.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and that's why it was so fun to start out this podcast and pretend like you were my
I ran
brother.
into a guy that is in charge of sound on sound, or no, pro sound. And I said, yeah, I'm Candace Stewart's brother. He freaked out.
Well, see, it used to be that I would say I'm Rick Smith's sister, and that was a big deal.
You're more famous than a lot of the people
And I feel
work
I
with.
feel so good now that they get to drop my name and be
Right.
like, oh,
you're Candace Stewart's brother, right?
I love that. And because I'm married and have a different last name, people
That's
would never
what
know
it
that we
is.
were siblings.
Anyway, I
Yeah.
want to thank Roseman and Paula and all the other people that helped me.
Kent Duncan,
and help
everybody.
you. You know?
Oh, dude, your connections and coming out in high school. I tell people this all the time. Coming out in high school, I'm 15, 16, 17, 18
Rose.
years old. I met Rose. Oddly enough, he was in 2 weeks ago. He's one of the few people that remembers me from my teenage years. Clink remembers, obviously, and Ron Nevison too. And then your friend Eddie Leonetti. It was great to see him. But one of the people that it was so God, I just lost my train of thought for a second there.
You're trying to
Oh,
think of a person.
Stephen Stills. And Stephen Stills
Oh,
was
that
here.
time we saw him with Lee in the hallway.
But Stephen Stills worked here a couple weeks ago, and he's always remembered that I played air hockey with him at the record plant, and I was like maybe 17.
Yeah.
And he was in, I don't know what he was doing,
He was
but
working in Studio C.
he was working there, and I played air hockey with him for some fucking reason. He was waiting for something to change over or something to happen. We played air hockey, and he came in about the first time about a decade ago. This band called The Rides that he has, and did some work with Kenny Wayne Shepherd, and Jerry Harrison was the producer.
Love
and then
Jerry.
he came, great, I love you, Jerry. Jerry, I need to get you on the show.
Very serious.
And great musician and great producer.
Yeah.
But and then came in and did another Rides record. I think at Cherney. Oh no, the guy that did that just passed away. His name was God. I can't believe I'm losing my memory here. I'm tired.
You didn't eat lunch.
Ben Tungren. Oh fuck, I can't believe that. I'll remember this and correct this. But Stephen came in recently, and I mentioned to Maxwell, who's one of the runners, I said, listen, Stephen can be a curmudgeon, but he's an American treasure, and we are honored to have him here, but he's rough. Oh, no,
I know.
Stephen's tough. So I said,
Kinda neurotic.
I said, Max, go out and help Stephen park. So Max goes out there and says, hey, I'm here to help you park. Actually, you should probably stop recording this, honestly. We're going to stop the audio on this part. Yeah. Woo!
Well, do you want to like conclude it?
Yeah, let me conclude it. And goes out there, and Stephen, you know you did this, so it doesn't matter if you hear this. Max says, I'm here to help you park, and he looks at Max and he goes, go fuck yourself. He says to Max, go fuck yourself. And then he walks in. No. Then he walks into the lobby and goes, where's Candace? I want to see Candace.
Yeah.
And I come up and I'm hugging him and
Yeah.
we're laughing. And Max is standing and he goes, oh, sorry, kid.
Yeah. He's like part of the Rat Pack.
Yeah.
Sorry, boy.
But dude, he still plays
No, he's real
such
good.
a good guitar player.
Yeah, he's real good.
Dude, seriously good. Okay,
good.
we're going to end on that note. People that are American treasures, Rick Smith, my brother, amongst many. Thank you, Nate. Thank you, Keith. Woo! Secrets, Trade Secrets, podcast. That's what
Daddy, well,
Excellent.